Journalist. All right, guys. So I'm going to read through it. Remember, we're going to read it every day before we start on our questions. And you can always refer back to this video. If you need help with any words, want to just listen to me read it again, read it with me as I go. So that's kind of up to you how you want to do it. All right. Journalist. Report. How would you feel to miss a birthday party because no one told you? Information needs to be shared. There are boatloads of information. People need to know about the news. A journalist can tell about things that happen. They deliver important information. A journalist can write or report on the news. They share information about what's happening. Then and now. Journalists have always been around. The first ones used pencils and paper. They also used typewriters. They worked for newspaper or magazine companies. Today, they report information on television and other electronics. Can you imagine only getting information from newspapers? Faster info. Now journalists have many ways to report the news. Technology has made reporting faster and smarter. It has caused I'm going to start the sentence again. It has caused the use of smartphones and computers. It has the effect of many blogs, websites, and different apps for the news. Technology is the reason a journalist can share more information on a daily basis. Okay, and then here we have our picture, and it has a hat that says press. And then here the caption says, journalists on the news or work for magazines and oh my gosh, why am I reading so bad? Journalists on the news or work for magazines and papers are also called reporters. Some interview people. Why does that sound weird to me? Journalists on news or work. Who should be? Journalists on the news who work for magazines and newspapers are also called reporters. I think this word or doesn't really make sense in that sentence. Journalists on the news or work for, no. Journalists on the news who work for magazines and newspapers. It should be who. I'm going to change it. This is a good lesson, guys. I knew that I was having a hard time reading it. There are mistakes all the time in things. And this is just like a silly little mistake. That's not a big deal. But everything you read, it's a good lesson. You got to research things like make sure that what you read, like you actually think is correct and believe in, or you at least find interesting. Here, this is just a basic grammar mistake. But there's mistakes all the time in what people read. So it's a good, like, I don't mind there being a mistake and that I tripped over it because that's real life. And so if you guys were here with me in class, we would have worked through that together, but you're not with me. So I just changed this one word because now when I read it, it makes more sense. Journalists on the news who work for magazines and newspapers are also called reporters. Some interview people. See, that makes sense to me. So good lesson, kids. A good journalist would go back through and reread what they had written to make sure it was correct. Okay. So backside. In one or two sentences, write about each paragraph. First, second, third. This paragraph, there's only 3 paragraphs. Sometimes there's 4, so there's a little bit less for you to do. So again, I'll do the first one with you, and then you can do the next 2. So the first paragraph is called report. How would it feel to miss a birthday party because no one told you? Information needs to be shared. There are boatloads of information. People need to know about the news. A journalist can tell about things that happen. They deliver important information. A journalist can write or report on the news. They share information about what's happening. So to me, if I'm going to like condense this, I'm going to squish it into like 1 or 2 sentences. It's really about sharing information so that you know what's going on. Like when I look at this first sentence, how would you feel to miss a birthday party because no one told you? it's kind of getting my brain to think like, oh gosh, that would be a bummer. Like, that's not fair. I didn't know, right? I didn't have that information. And then when it, in the last sentences, they share information about what's happening. So this ties in, like what's happening, I would have been the birthday party and I would have had information, right? So to me, and then this is all the details specifically about information's being shared. There's a lot of information. People need to know the news. They need to know what's happening. So this is how you deliver information. So I think to me the keywords are the sharing and delivering. Delivering is like to give. Important information is kind of what stands out in my mind, and that comes in a report. The report can be on like a lot of different ways, but any kind of report is just giving facts and information to share. So I'm going to say the first one is the first paragraph about. It is about sharing news and information with people. Then they know what is happening. Yay! Okay, so that's kind of, I mean, you can write something different, but to me, it's really about getting that information across, right? So that everyone knows the same facts and details about what's going on, when it's going on, different things that are happening across the country, across the world. It didn't really go into that, but it's kind of just like the overall look of basically what a report is. It's giving you shared information about what's going on, about what's happening. Okay, so then you're going to do it for paragraph 2 and 3. So then and now, kind of shrink this into just like the big idea, and faster info, shrink it into a big idea.